we're streaming to YouTube as of right now.
Twirl my hair and chew bubble gum.
You just want to be the stereotypical female on the podcast? You're just here because you're pretty. You offer no other...
Well, to be fair, there are some people that already say that, so...
Well, it's the internet, so...
Yeah, just had to go there.
All right.
We live?
We are live.
Awesome.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics. I am Evan Irwin, and we get started as we do each and every single week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Aaron Campbell.
Shalom.
Ruben Bressler.
Happy Hanukkah.
Excuse me. Yes, and it's been a Christmas weekend, guys.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas, guys.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Happy
Christmas.
Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah. Happy holidays. Do all the holiday happy Festivus for the rest of us.
Happy
Right.
Kwanzaa.
That's right. All
Kwanzaa,
the things.
Ramadan, Festivus for the rest of us. And we do have some grievances that we're gonna tell you about.
Yeah.
We always got grievances. Did you guys have a wonderful Christmas?
I did. I had a really nice Christmas. We went out to my aunt and uncle's place I'm in Columbus right now. We went out to their place in Granville, which is about half an hour from here, and just had a lovely time. I don't know. I like my family a lot. And a lot of people don't like their family a lot, so I'm pretty lucky about that.
Aaron, was it wonderful?
Yeah, it was nice. You know, my dad has been kind of sidetracked by his anxiety all year. Like, he actually had a heart attack back in September because his anxiety was so bad that he worried himself into a heart attack. And so he's been on the mend since then. And we ended up going out to eat on Thanksgiving because he didn't have the energy to make a feast. But for Christmas, he was like, I want to cook this year. And so the fact that he was feeling up to cooking, that was a Christmas gift for me, that he had the energy and the desire to do that. So he made a giant ham. We watched The Dark Knight Rises as a family, and it was brief, but it was really, really lovely.
That's great. Well, I am a giant ham, so high five. Figuratively, literally, something, fat joke. But no, it was great. I got to hang out with my kids.
Yeah.
Got to see my family in Tennessee. It was.
I saw the photos. You had. You are just the most photogenic family.
Yeah, beautiful family.
I don't know how that happened,
but thanks.
So well done.
Nice. Got that. Gotta get that burn in there. Just that little subtle slide. Just, So while we had our Christmas festivities, Wizards of the Coast decided to give us our present, which was shiny and exciting, and it was the new masterpieces from Aether Revolt. And I'm going to bring up here 3 at a time, and then we're going to talk about some that actually kind of slipped through the cracks today, apparently. Mm-hmm. Now, the first set that we talk about is Arcbound Ravager, which has amazing new art by Darkin. And of course, I'm not going to exactly sort of explain what these are because I feel like they're masterpieces. They're known. You get it. It's cool. If you don't know what these are, please, feel free to look them up because they're amazing cards. But Arcbound Ravager's here. Clearly, if there is going to be a all masterpiece affinity deck in Modern, I need it to exist. I need to see it. I need to see it under camera, and I need to think about it and lust after it and know that I will never ever own it. But somebody will. Anyway, so Arcbound Ravager.
That's his name?
Ajlaton
might get there. Black Vice and also Chalice of the Void. These are all very exciting, powerful artifacts. Really sweet. Our second set here, we're going to look at Duplicant, an EDH staple, which is fantastic. Yep. Defense Grid, which is a cool, fun, modern card. Absolutely gorgeous. Engineered Explosives, which looks amazing. This weird kind of dome with light shooting out of it. Super, super cool. Ensnaring Bridge, which is... it's like robot arms. I'm not really...
I don't know what this is.
It looks nothing like a bridge.
It's ensnaring, though.
It's snaring.
It's not particularly bridge-like.
Yeah. It's
okay.
It's weird. Grindstone, which doesn't look like it's grinding anything rather than just gears turning.
Those are gears.
Those are just gears. Like, those aren't... Are they grinding? Did I miss something?
You know what really grinds my gears? Is that Grindstone doesn't have a grindstone on it.
Wow.
It has gears.
You know what grinds my gears? When they print a sword that's not a sword.
Yeah.
The art is actual, not a sword.
You need to be more positive.
It's just a wiffle ball bat. Yeah, no, this Grindstone is kind of neat. I'm very excited to ask my friends to borrow all of their masterpieces so that I can grind people in Legacy.
Oh my god,
AO,
extra
hashtag grind people. But
extra planar lens is here, and this is from Noah Bradley, who actually showed his process on the Magic subreddit. He also did like a really cool 3D model thing, which I thought was really sweet. But either way, if you look closely into the extra planar lens, you will see Amonkhet's in there.
Yeah,
Amonkhet's
really
way. You can
spoiler.
just see, if you look at the right side, you'll see the bolus horns kind of come out. And
spoiler, I like it.
Big old spoiler. Meekstone is up next. Meekstone being one of the stones from the Urza block. Well, not Urza block, from the Antiquities, which then
from the Urza storyline.
Drove the Brothers' War. If you want to look at that or learn about that, I made Forgotten Lores all about it. It's really cool stuff. But Meekstone, more of a flavory type thing. You know, Steve Argyle did a fine job.
Yeah.
You know, looks really good. Now, my absolute favorite, Ornithopter.
Oh man,
Ornithopter, baby! Oh my god,
that's the polarizing one. Like people either really, really love it or really, really hate it. There's no in between.
Oh, actually, thank you. Chat that is the weak stone. I'm sorry, not the meek stone. I got those two confused. The weak stone, because there was the might stone and the weak stone. We won't go into it. Anyway, meek stone is a card. No, weak stone makes all creatures like -1/-0. Or
this is the one that sees play in Legacy sometimes when Tarmogoyf is popular.
Every once in a while. So Ornithopter is here. Ornithopter, the original 0-mana 0/2 flyer from Antiquities, here, shiny, new, beautiful. If you don't like that they did this, you're wrong, because it's amazing.
And the flavor text is so perfect. You know, the flavor text says, consider all confiscated items hostile until proven otherwise. You know, how many times have you seen what you thought was a harmless Ornithopter, and then a cranial plating or a Ravager later, you've got like a 14/2 Ornithopter coming for your face? I mean, it's perfect.
Wow.
Well, yeah, I'm as someone who recently played Lantern Control, I can tell you that the scariest card in Affinity is Ornithopter.
It's Ornithopter.
Because they can attack under a bridge, and then it can pick up a plating or get all those tokens from an Arcbound Ravager.
Yeah.
I also think that we had talked recently about how we wanted Ornithopter to be in the block at the very least, because of the flavor text from the Mirrodin Ornithopter, regardless of century, plane, or species, developing artificers never fail to invent the Ornithopter. They had to work it into the block somehow.
Nice.
And honestly, I'm of the three of you, I'm the least excited that Ornithopter is a masterpiece. I never thought of Ornithopter as a masterpiece because, you know, there's a different flavor text on, I think it's in Antiquities, that is like, young artificers learn to artificate by making crappy Ornithopters, right? Like, that's the flavor text on that one. So, you know, it doesn't seem like a masterpiece so much as like a science fair project. But among cards that'll see a lot of play in their masterpiece form, Ornithopter's a solid one.
I'm not going to try to keep this too, I don't know, I got sort of like bathroom focused, but it's what I'm going to, okay? So work with me here. You know, like if you're super uber rich, if you are a billionaire and you have a toothbrush, like everybody, you know, if you want, you know, if you like your teeth, you got a toothbrush. So if you got a toothbrush, let's say that you had a diamond encrusted toothbrush. It is still a toothbrush. You can still get one, you know, at any Dollar General or whatever for 99 cents, but you have the $3,000 toothbrush. That's super sweet, totally awesome. In this toothbrush, you kind of get to show off with, you know, at different various public events and things. That's kind of the way I put it. Like, it's, you know, it's really an ordinary average object per se as a card.
What's the upgrade?
Pimp possible.
Right. What's the upgrade? What's really the upgrade on having a gold toilet? Right. Like that's what you're getting at here. I mean, that's cool. Like this is going to be one that you can play in a constructed tournament. This isn't static orb, right? This isn't random static orb being in the set for flavor reasons. Right. So I'm fine with it.
Fair enough. So we have Oblivion Stone, which is up next, and an amazing card, beautiful image, clearly a casual staple, whether it's Commander, whether it's Cubes. Oblivion Stone has seen a little bit of play in Modern, right?
quite
Tron.
a bit of play.
It was a
Tron,
staple
yeah.
in modern,
Oh, yeah.
modern Tron.
Fantastic. I don't play a lot of modern,
this.
so.
I love this art, by the way. I don't. Who's the artist here? I can't. Neil, is this? No, I can't read it from my.
Yong Hao Han, I think it is.
Awesome. He did a fabulous job. I think that the artistic license that he took in turning it into like a whole scene, not just the stone itself, but its setting,
right?
Like the way it looks in where it is. Sometimes the old Oblivion Stone, it was just like the stone, which was cool. It was cool art.
Yeah,
but this one, there's like a whole thing happening, and I love it.
Right. It's more than just like the stone and the guy's like going, or whatever, trying to lean away from it. It has a setting. Pithing Needle is up next, or Pithing. Is it Pithing or Pithing? Can we get the final?
Pithing.
I think it's Pithing.
Pithing.
Because it's a Pith Driller is the magic card Pith Driller.
Yeah.
So I think it's Pithing. The act of pithing is when you pith.
It's when Mike Tyson has to go?
Yes. Pith. Yeah.
You're just pithing all over my analysis, bro.
In any case, I think it's pithing.
God, I am a child. So
hopefully we'll stop pithing soon.
Pithing Needle is one of the only, saviors, if you will, of the entire Saviors of Kamigawa set.
That was really just great work out of you.
Yes.
Nicely.
I am a professional, sir.
Well done.
I'm not. Okay, I'm professional. All right. Platinum Angel. Now, Pithing Needle,
Love
first of all,
this.
Platinum Angel is amazing. This is very much, they put the arts of Atraxa, the Praetor's Voice, and Platinum Angel side by side. They're very similar in many aspects in terms of...
Victor Adame.
Victor Adame is an absolute master.
And that is cloth. Like, if you look closely, that is a construct. And somebody mentioned this on Twitter because I had sent a picture of this to Heather Dawn, who loves angels, and somebody intercepted it and noticed that them making the angel wings cloth was something that hadn't been done for a while, or something they said they weren't going to do. And this was sort of bringing that style of wing back, because every time we've seen it, they've been wings, and this is fabric, and it's a construct. The hips, the curvature, gorgeous. Love this card.
Wow. Well, to go back just to Pithing Needle for a second, I really hope that this is the pimp version for standard and that it's in the set.
Same.
Please be in the set. Dear God.
Yeah.
But Platinum Angel is very cool. More cool than, sort of like effective constructed wise these days. But still, beautiful, amazing artwork. There is no doubt this is the version you want.
I mean, Platinum Angels popped up from time to time in various types of different decks. There's Mono Blue Tron. There was what was called Blue Angels in Vintage for a while, where you would protect your Platinum Angels with Pact of Negations. That was a deck
even Devin Kopke, when he went to SCG Minneapolis, Kepke, is that what that is?
Kepke.
So at SCG Milwaukee back in October, he had tried using Madcap Experiment with that as sidebar tech against Infect.
Right.
Because he was on Ad Nauseam, and so that was his way to get around Infect, which I thought was brilliant. But that's another way to do it.
That's kind of amazing, actually.
I think Caleb Durward was messing around with a Platinum Angel Madcap Experiment just deck in Modern for a while. So, I mean, it pops up from time to time. It needs the right metagame. It needs the right pieces around it. But, and it's just gorgeous, and obviously it's an EDH kind of thing, and a casual all-star, and so that'll be highly sought after.
Absolutely. And so our next masterpiece up here is Sphere of Resistance. And Sphere of Resistance is, at this point, a vintage staple.
It is Legacy. Absolutely, yeah.
It is.
When you talk about shops, it's called shops because it has Mishra's workshop. But you count the number of, quote, spheres in your deck. The only sphere is Sphere of Resistance. The rest of them are things like Thorn of Amethyst and Lodestone Golems.
Right.
But I'm running like 9 spheres in my deck, right? Because it's named after this card. This card is also quite gorgeous. I wish it was like telling more of a story, is my only problem with the art for Sphere of Resistance. Is it's not really, like the flavor text is the one that's telling the story in this card. Right. And the thing itself just looks like the Tesseract, right, from the Captain America movies.
See, I disagree.
Which is still cool.
I feel like the original Sphere art made it look very small, and I feel like the scope of this one is so much larger, like combined with the flavor text where it says that, they're hoping to sort of shut down the Rebels mages. This just looks so much bigger and so much scarier. Like, it's not just a little thing you can hold in your hand. It's a big old sphere, and it's got enough,
and
emanating
distorting.
from it. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
the original
I mean,
the original
I still
image that
like
they
it.
had was, and this was from Exodus, by the way.
Yes.
The original image that they had, that I cannot clearly pull up right now while I'm talking, is, you know, one that has like all these goblins, like kind of like, you know, being pushed away or whatever, because the sphere is resisting them. So this is more of a, you're not really sure how big the sphere is. It looks fairly large based on the scale of it and so on and so forth.
It seems like the common thread, though, is, you know, you mentioned it with Oblivion Stone, too. Like, in the past, the art was very obvious, where it's like, oh, we're being obliviated or being resisted or something. And it's nice to see them kind of moving away from that, where we know what it does. We just need it to either look better or just not be as obvious.
Absolutely. So next up is Sundering Titan. I was really
Love
surprised. This is a beautiful, beautiful
Yes.
version of Sundering Titan.
They did it with this one, yeah.
On
So-
a Tron staple.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
This one gets the, I think, for my money, I mean, I really like Platinum Angel, but I think that Sundering Titan gets the All-Star Award for art for these that I've seen so far. I just think that this Sundering Titan is just everything you want in a masterpiece art.
And I love the way that they've been doing it, and you see it with some of the Gear Hulks too, the way that they put people in the frame to really show how big the construct is, you know?
Yeah.
You have this bridge, and you have these tiny, tiny people, and they're made so much tinier by how big this thing is, and I think that's fantastic.
Right. I feel like that the artists, I mean, just magic artists kind of in general, I think have gotten much better at showing scale. Like, to actually give you an idea. And of course, they've shown scale, you know, ever since sort of Aberoth from Weatherlight or whatever, when you have this little dude on like a horse or whatever, and then you got the huge monster dude. But that's fine. There's always been little birds in the background in place. But now, you know, with Progenitus, but be able to actually have people in there and the angle and the way, you know, it's kind of set up there. Absolutely gorgeous. Sword of Body and Mind is completely along with Sword of War and Peace that I have on the next slide here, because
Sword of Body and Mind
it's
kind of looks like a fishing pole. Is it just me? It's just me. Okay.
It's got a little of that kind of fly fishing kind
It's got a
of.
reel. Yeah,
It's got a real action.
That's a dangerous fishing pole.
Let me tell you, I'm happy it's a sword.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a sword. It has a handle. It has a hilt. It has a blade.
Yep.
It's sharp.
Mm-hmm.
It's
I love that
pointy.
that's how low the bar is for us. Does it look like a sword? Yes, I'm happy.
Quickly, high five,
I mean-
move on.
Right.
Got
to be
there,
fair,
fam.
it's a sword of body and mind. I see no body nor mind, though.
Wow, I needed a brain.
Welcome to my
on the end
life,
of that.
Ruben.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Amazing. That was a solid A-. That was really good. Holy crap! I've been defeated.
That was quality right there. Staff of Domination, a absolute sort of casual all-star, one of the best cards, and like whenever people talk about infinite combos or infinite mana, Staff really quickly enters the conversation. And is, again, you know, this one is a bit more kind of subdued. It's not over the top. I don't think it really needs to be. You're looking at Staff. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
Sundering Titan's one thing, where it's this monster thing that takes over the, you know, the world that it inhabits. Staff is just like, it's kind of a BA Staff.
It's kind of weird. Like, you look at Sword of Body and Mind and you look at Staff of Domination, and it's like very similar art direction, right? And Staff of Domination's background is nothing. Like, it's just by itself. Which is a super unique art choice. You know, I need more I need to look closer at the art to see what's going on with the staff, to see, you know, if there's some, you know, like sphere of resistance style distortion happening or something. But I mean, it's a gorgeous piece. I just was thrown by the art direction for it, I think.
Well, up next
It's gorgeous. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Like I'm now I am nitpicking the nittiest possible things to nitpick.
all the
So,
nits. So
all the nits. I'm a
sort of-
huge nit.
monster, just a big chunky nit.
Wow.
Sword of War and Peace is next, and it's funny. Basically, you know, maybe someday, but I just don't see them making swords like the other swords. You know what I mean? I just don't see them making the friendly color swords.
Allied. Yeah.
Yeah, because
Until they run out of ideas.
Yeah, when the well starts running dry, or they need to pump a set up or whatever, or pump a block up, they'll go back to this well, which I think is probably going to happen. It's just, I think it was really obvious, and this is something I talked about with R&D themselves, that those swords they're just too good. For the time, they didn't know how good equipment was, and they didn't have the numbers right, and blah blah blah. Well, they started this thing where these swords do this stuff, and they're 3 mana, and they give +2/+2, and they equip for this much, and they have to have 2 abilities. That it's like all of that stuff on top of each other. That's how we got Sword of Feast and Famine. Sword of Feast and Famine was an absolute ridiculous. Sword of Feast and Famine was my spoiler. They didn't think swords were that good to the point where they gave me Sword of Feast and Famine, one of the best cards of the entire Mirrodin Besiege, easily, if not the actually won a Pro Tour as soon as it showed up.
Yeah, I mean, full cycles don't appear in as all 5 in cubes all that often.
Right.
I think that the only full cycles that are in the current cube are the Moxen and the swords. Wow. Is there another one?
Wow.
I can't think of another one.
I can't think of one off the top of my head. There might be, and I'm sure our wonderful
I'm sure our chat will let us know, but those are the 2 I'm thinking of. It is tough to get into the cube, let alone get all 5 of your posse into the cube.
Wow, he just went straight posse, y'all.
That is difficult to do.
Wow. Fair enough. So. Oh, and granted, and as they're pointing out, Wizards has definitely given me some good cards. I feel like they gave us a very good card this time. I'm not saying I don't get good cards. I'm saying that I don't and I know from having conversations that it wasn't understood how ridiculous Sword of Feast and Famine was, and Sword of Feast and Famine originally made you discard at random. Think about that.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I'm being corrected by chat. We got a couple of cycles. All the Titans are in.
Nice. All the duels,
all the duels and all the fetches are in. I think that's it.
Sure.
But still, and R&D also was like, we wanted to make big creatures good, so we pushed the hell out of the Titans, and then they were like, oops, we pushed the hell out of the Titans.
And then they reprinted them. And then
they reprinted them.
God. So that was just the most demoralizing thing. Ugh.
So, I mean, it's still, point stands. Not all of the Zeniths are in.
Right.
If someone can explain to me why Blue Sun Zenith isn't in the Vintage Cube right now, that would be lovely. I really don't know why it's not in the Vintage Cube right now.
I guess it has Stroke, right?
They used to have Stroke. They cut Stroke.
Oh.
So there's just no Draw X that isn't Sphinx's Revelation anymore.
Wow.
But they do have Villainous Wealth, which is weird. It's fine, but it's weird. And then they've got, they got some other weird stuff that could be in the Blue Sun Zenith spot. In any case, that's not the point here. It's very difficult to get all your friends in the club.
Right. Sword of War and Peace is here. It is absolutely gorgeous.
It is.
One of the prettiest swords. And I still think probably Sophie is my favorite of this sort of masterpiece cycle. That look sort of almost like a gun type of thing, which is really great. But this to me is probably second. I think it's fantastic. There's this gold and red sort of outline thing going on.
Looks very paladin-like.
Yeah, this looks very Game of Thronesy.
Very regal.
Big broadsword, yeah. As opposed to the Sword of Body and Mind, which was more of a katana, like an epee, like a dexterity weapon as opposed to a strength weapon.
Now, this is going to sound a little strange, but I can tell you, when I saw Veldalken Shackles as a masterpiece, and I saw the artwork, which, again, all these artworks are fantastic. This artwork is beautiful, absolutely incredible. It shows these shackles, but it's got this blue glow around the end of each of the shackles, and I'm telling you, as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my god, that's Svetlin Velinov, and it was totally Svetlin Velinov. That man can make a glow work like few other Magic artists. I know it sounds strange, but I'm telling you, the guy is an absolute master. Super, super cool. Amazing card, Veldalken Shackles. Oh my god, that card was just...
I saw this and I immediately heard Travis Wu's voice in my head. Veldalken Shackles, Veldalken Shackles. Go back and listen to his old videos. That's the way he says it, and to this day it still haunts me. Veldalken Shackles, and just it's a thing. It's
great. Trinisphere is next. It is one of those sort of very prison-esque. You're going to lock your opponent down. You're going to make them suffer. Very big in Vintage. Makes all spells cost 3 mana. This is just another sort of part of the smokestack, big prison lockdown.
Wire.
Take all your stuff and make you suffer.
I faced a Tangle Wire for the first time in my life the other day in Vintage. That is a card.
Boy, let me tell you, it is a card. I am desperately and madly in love with Tangle Wire.
It's really weird. I've actually seen a lot of differing opinions from very, very good Magic players of like Tangle Wire is completely nuts. Tangle Wire is terrible. I'm not kidding. It is one of the most polarizing cube cards I have seen.
It is extremely polarizing, yes.
Yeah.
And I think it's significantly worse in Vintage Cube because there's so many 0-mana artifact mana rocks walking around. But in Legacy Cube, I like often will second or third pick it. It is that. I think it's that good.
It is very, very powerful. In my opinion, I'm of the opinion that it is very, very good, and you can pick it early because if you play it the right way, you gain such an advantage that you can kind of overwhelm your opponent. Usually, you need to be doing something very aggressive early or very combo powerful early, which is fine. But again, the whole idea of the transfer decks and whatnot, they are very good. But let's keep moving here with the last official preview. Now, this was supposed to be all we got for Christmas. Wurmcoil Engine. Now, this Wurmcoil Engine is illustrated by the legendary Alexei Bricklot, who gave us our first 5 Planeswalkers ever. Alexei, clearly a master, and I love Alexei to death. I've met the man many times. He's brilliant.
He's great.
But you gotta tip it for Swanland on this one.
Yeah.
I think. I just don't feel like, you go to Scars of Mirrodin and you go to Wurmcoil Engine, even if it's the promo version, which isn't as good, I think, as the official version, but even the promo or the printed in the PAX version, I think has the edge here. And I think, and we talked about this a little bit in the pre-show, which was, it's kind of like Kaladesh is too happy to really show you what a Wurmcoil Engine's supposed to be.
I mean, this one looks happy. And when you think of Wurmcoil Engine, I mean, especially as a player, you're terrified of it. You're never happy to see a Wurmcoil Engine. And when you look at Swanland's version, it's gross. It's this disgusting metal, eerie, massive, unclean thing that it just really emphasizes the card. And this one, it's kind of a bright, shiny day. It's got a beam, but even the beam is like a bright blue, and it's obscured by a building, so you can't really see the scope of it, the depth of it. You see just maybe these little suckers on it. It just doesn't convey the same sense of fear that the first one did. And it's just this just didn't need to. I just feel like this one really clashed with the theme of Kaladesh and Either Revolt.
I get this feeling of when a cat comes and brushes your leg, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of got that little nosy, little cozy. You're like, hey, bro, it's I'm gonna give you some love. It's your friendly, neighborhood Wurmcoil Engine. And he's just blinking at you a little bit with his weird little blinky hole thing there.
I mean, this is obviously terrifying and spooky, but it's spooky in an Alice in Wonderland kind of way, right? So when you run into actual terror of a spinning doom machine that is the original version of Wurmcoil Engine, this looks like a happy fun time, comparatively speaking. If we gotten this guy first, we would have been like, ooh, big terrifying caterpillar with the blue ether light attachment. That's pretty terrifying. Yeah. And then later we would have gotten the holy crap bad guy from Transformers 2 thing happening. Then it would have been slightly different. But yeah, you just got to hand it. Sometimes you just do it right the first time. And I love this thing, but I think it's a little bit of a function of having too much to live up to. It's a function of the plane that they're on. Until that glistening oil from New Phyrexia makes its way to Kaladesh, and that's coming. Return to Kaladesh is going to be all about the Phyrexians. I'll be so mad when it happens too.
Does that mean that Rashmi is finally going to come out as Mishra? Because
yes.
I'm not the only one.
If that's the twist, okay.
I'm totally okay if that's the long con. If that's what they're doing, I'm okay with this. I'm 100% on board.
That.
Please.
Yeah, I mean, we literally just had previous to this block, we had 2 sets of, hey, here's a place everybody likes, here's bad guys ruining it. Hey, here's another place everybody likes, here's different bad guys ruining it. If they do that again, they gotta wait 5 years. They gotta wait a while. They gotta sow their oats in different kinds of storylines.
They have to act like they're going to make Kaladesh pure,
Yeah, exactly. Right?
Yeah.
I found
they're going to make Kaladesh great again?
Yes.
Wow.
Well, hey, that's what New Phyrexians were thinking, right? That's what LSU was all about.
Right, you got to follow the real Tezzeret on Twitter, and every day he'll just spurt out something ridiculous. Yeah. Our last 2 spoilers were not supposed to be spoilers, and you're looking at them right now on the screen.
These are spoilers. The other ones were official previews.
Right.
These are spoilers.
These are spoilers. Now, from what I can tell from what interwebs have told me, and everything you read on the internet is true, clearly, is that these were found as a result of guessing file names. Wizards often will put up files on the website with, like, a bunch of random string of letters and numbers, .jpg, and somebody figured out the random number, the random string that they had. And here we have Planar Bridge, a 6 generic mana legendary artifact that says 8, tap, search your library for a permanent card, put it on the battlefield, and then shuffle your library. Every EDH player is like, oh my boy, oh my god. Yeah. It is just, we are just having fun. We're going to make some mana. We're going to put some stuff on the battlefield. It's going to be totally awesome. Planar Bridge is Planar Portal 2.0, like portaling harder. Planar Portal was a 6 mana artifact that 6 mana tap, you went and found a card, put it in your hand and shuffle your library. That's great. Here you totally portal harder and you just put the thing, you just go find Omniscience and just do it. Just go on. That's what you're going to go get.
Omniscience is the card, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Like, that's the one I feel like you want to go find for your
I was
card.
all like Craterhoof Behemoth, her, and then you're like, no. That's not where we're at.
It's kind of like a Rorschach test. Like, we can tell a lot about our personalities, but by what we would get with that card. Like, you had said, Evan, that you would get Omniscience. Yes. Ruben was like, I would get Craterhoof, and I think that's very par for the course. I love it. Well,
to be fair, having heard that the correct answer is Omniscience, I know I'm wrong. Like, having heard the correct answer, I'm like, oh, of course that's what it is.
Oh, yes.
Why did I ever think it was a 5/5?
With a weird ability? No, let's just play literally stone everything for free the rest of the game. Yeah. Thanks. So this card is absolutely like fantastic. It sucks because we're in this weird push-pull that we find ourselves in basically kind of all year in various amounts, which is, oh my god, look at this amazing thing, and then, oh my god, it shouldn't have been shown to us right now. Yeah. But I can't argue with sweet, fun cards, and oh my lord, Paradox Engine is a 5 generic mana legendary artifact that has 1 sentence on it. Mm-hmm. Whenever you cast a spell, untap all non-land permanents you control. What just happened? What happened to have that
Cryptolith Rights just happened.
Jesus, I can't. I don't know what's going on because Paradox Engine with stone anything. Now, the one that I heard quickly was Elves, which was amazing. But anything with lots of artifact mana, clearly this thing is broken in half in Commander, like just not even close. And this definitely feels like, first of all, one of those toys, at least casually, that you would probably either it's probably going to get banned or it's going to be like, friendly banned where like, your Commander group is just like, can you just not play that stupid card anymore? Because you go find Paradox Engine, you play a Paradox Engine, and the game just completely devolves into terribleness. Yeah. Or it's going to spawn, it's going to spawn its own crazy, ridiculous combo decks because you just need to have like 1 mana after you play it. Yeah. And you should completely go insane.
This goes infinite with 2 copies of Sensei's Divining Top and like a Soul Ring. Like, you get infinite mana off of those 3 mana. And obviously having this 5 mana artifact in play. Like, the thing that I think that is going to keep this thing in check is it's a lot to get this thing in play.
It is a lot. 5 mana is a lot of mana. It really is.
5 is you got to go turn 1 elf, turn 2 like Wall of Roots, and still hit your 3rd land drop to be able to get to this thing tapped out. So like, that's somewhat reasonable. They have a chance to hit it. But yeah, I mean, this thing with Cryptolith Right is ridiculous. This thing with anything that's like Basalt Monolith style is obviously absurd. And that's just for mana. If you start getting things like Urza's Blueprints or, our buddies from last week, the Quicksmiths, get to untap your clue tokens to deal extra damage and draw extra cards, right? There's a lot of cool things that you can do with this card.
I mean, the fact that you have Improvise, which is the convoke for artifacts, which this lets you untap all of your artifacts that you used to play with Improvise, and if something gives artifacts Improvise and this gets improvised, oh my god.
I think it's also noteworthy that it dodges some of the hate in Standard too. Natural State is 3 or less, Fragmentize is 4 or less, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
So unless you're running something like Appetite for the Unnatural, good luck trying to get rid of this thing.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I mean, can Tron make this thing happen? I've seen some
Planar
people.
Bridge is more up its alley. Like I think turning the possibility of Tron turning into a toolbox deck, I think is kind of scary. Shout out to Saffron Olive. He wrote about, I think devotion decks could be interested in Planar Bridge too. Decks are able to make a stupid amount of mana with Nykthos. He wrote about a white devotion deck the other day, which I had the mispleasure of facing in a league the other day. Thanks, Saffron. And they were able to make a dumb amount of white mana and hard cast Ulamog. And so you give them a lot of mono green devotion. Sometimes sees play. Mono black devotion creeps up every once in a while in modern. Again, Nykthos plus this just makes scary things exactly what you want. I think this will see play.
I mean, a couple things about Paradox Engine. First of all, that is the design itself, which is really cool because the design itself is one of those like perpetual motion machines that people thought could get around the laws of physics. That is one of those designs. I can't remember. It's called like the weighted wheel or something, right? Which is super cool in and of itself. But it's just this is, I love this card because it does what like really only Magic is able to do. I'm working at cool stuff. I'm watching all these board games and they have their expansions and they have their new releases and Wizards can make a thing that is so ridiculously mind-blowing, and it may end up being completely harmless.
Yeah.
My God, did we freak out over Chandra, and she did nothing. But they can make this thing which has such potential, and the potential is so exciting and awesome that we can be really blown away by it. Because this card could be completely busted in half, or it could do absolute zero because it's 5 mana, and yet we still have these amazing experiences of, oh my God, look at this thing and what it can do. That is Magic to me. That is why I have done what I've done for so long.
Among the things that Wizards of the Coast designers are great at is being able to still, even after 16,000 Magic cards, still just surprise the hell out of us. I remember being in a room with a bunch of the guys from Cincinnati, like Adam Prozac was still in Cincinnati at this time. This was right before he went to Wizards. Mm-hmm. And then folks like Peter Johnson and Taylor Gunn and John Douglas, and some of you guys might know who those folks are. And we brought up, it was midnight after a cube draft, and we brought up the spoilers or the official previews for the Theros for the day. And the article for this day was 100-handed one. And we put it up on the big TV, and everyone was quiet for 10 seconds. And then everybody went, what? like it was dead quiet. And then we all just were like, oh my God, that's amazing. That kind of moment is so unique to Magic. Like I don't, for me it's unique to Magic because obviously I'm not into these other cultures, but I can't imagine that being a thing that people just get that worked up, that emotional over a mechanic on one card.
Yeah. Yeah, I was there for PAX during the Battle for Zendikar when they first started spoiling it, when they had the big Ulamog coming through the window, and I was there when they first revealed Ulamog, and, I have never experienced hype like I did that evening when Maro first unveiled the new Ulamog, and just to be around all these people, it was just, it was like nothing else. And like you said, to be in the game, 20 years now? And we've seen it all. We've seen Storm, and we've seen Dredge, and we've seen Flanking, and we've seen Banding, and we've seen, just when you think they can't top themselves or that they can't come up with anything new. And at the same time, though, it also feels like there are things that have been under our noses the whole time. Like, if you really look at it, you're like, okay, it untaps things. Like, you wonder why it wasn't done sooner. So not only does it impress you, you wonder why you haven't seen it before because it's so simple almost.
Absolutely. So... let's move on now to Gathering the Townsfolk, where we talk a little bit about community issues, people in the community, things that happen in the community, hashtag community. Now, something I learned, I did not know this, but it turns out our good pal Rudy of Alpha Investments, got his channel back. Yay! That's great. He went to what, as he described, Hosetown, and lived in Hosetown, and I'm sure it was terrible in Hosetown. But the other thing I learned... was that he watches Magic Mike's.
Yay!
Because he kind of dropped a note there in the feedback as one of the comments last week. So I thought that was really sweet. Nice. So I'm really, really happy to hear that Rudy is back. I've watched some of his new videos. I think, you should go check him out on Twitter at MTG_alpha invest. Go find his channel on YouTube. I'll put a link in the description. Rudy is really cool again at this, at what we just talked about last week, which is just like this. If you like the inside baseball of Magic, whether it's the finance or whether it's what he thinks Wizards is doing from someone from like the sort of the business owner, business side of things, you'll find him absolutely fascinating.
He's also a very natty dresser.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and the bonus to Rudy, and as I understand it, he actually lives in Florida, which I thought was kind of cool.
You guys should go to Applebee's and hang out.
We should go. We should totally go hang out, bruh. But no, I actually think it'd be kind of cool actually to meet the guy. But regardless,
fan boating. What's another thing to do in Florida? You guys should go commit fraud. That's all I read about people in Florida doing.
Get a mugshot and let them show.
You should definitely go do bath salts.
That's great.
Hang out with some alligators. I don't know what they do in Florida.
Sure. Either way, it's cool. The benefit for Rudy is that the man's got charisma, and that's what some people just they try and they can't do it, and it's a thing. I know. You don't just necessarily have it, but the man's got it, and that's why
charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent.
You got it. Just setting them up. I'm just putting them up on a little softball stand right there, and all right. So another thing that came up.
That was solid automatopoeia voice work that you just had there.
You do that noise again. That was cool.
That was lovely.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
A loud one.
Years of experience, ladies and gentlemen. So there was something that kind of got kicked up again this week, and it's happened before, and I've seen it before, and we've kind of been through this conversation at least once, not necessarily on this podcast, but someone had mentioned like, hey, there's this article from 2005 on Quiet Speculation about how it sucks to work for Wizards of the Coast, and then there was another article that came out like the next day after there's all this discussion, and like someone was like, I tried to work at Wizards and they told me what they were going to pay me, and they wanted me to take a 45% pay cut, and they're like, well, people want to work here because they love the IP, not because they like currency. Turns out people like currency a lot.
Yeah.
And then the next day there was why Wizards is okay, and there were people talking about like they're willing to admit mistakes and they're public about their work and so on and so forth. So there was very much this kind of dichotomy of oh my God, Wizards must be the worst place to work ever, versus like, well, but Wizards is still okay, and maybe it's just Glassdoor can be skewed because usually the people who are happy with their job are
post on Glassdoor.
Are not going to Glassdoor to spend their day or any of their time during their day to go be like, hey, I really like my job, it's pretty cool, but rather, if you're pissed off or something bad happened or you feel you've been wronged in some way, yeah, absolutely, Glassdoor.com, this is just ridiculous and I've never been treated this way, and so on and so forth. So there's definitely there's a whole world of like, well, Wizards is corporate, like Wizards is under the Hasbro banner, and they have all these corporate policies, and they're very much structured and rigid, and that's kind of what you see. And there's been plenty of stories out there, whether it's Glassdoor or otherwise, as to why that is. And there's also a lot I think you can read from John Laux' kind of farewell letter when he left Wizards and why he left Wizards and the things he saw. He couldn't necessarily explain all of it, but I think you could get a gist. I think between the lines, as you read, you could see a little bit of the frustrations that he held. But there's a lot of frustrations in almost any job you're at. I mean, there's politics are going to happen one way or another.
I looked up the company that I worked for on Glassdoor, and like there were a surprising number of negative reviews as well. And in my experience, I enjoy my job quite a bit, and so I thought that was fascinating.
Right. And so
I think that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go for it.
All right, I was just going to say that, it's, I have so many thoughts on it. Evan, we've had this conversation a lot, which is, Magic the Gathering is a dream job for a lot of people. Working at Wizards of the Coast, that's what 12-year-old Ruben wanted to do. So, and I'm not alone. I'm not the only one. There's a lot of folks who are just, Gavin Verhey, right, just drawing in his notebook, not actually paying attention in class, writing up deck lists, making new enchantments and stuff like that. There's a lot of us out there. And Wizards and Hasbro knows that, and so they can be like, hey, if you want to answer the phones at Wizards of the Coast, you're going to get paid 10% less than if you answer the phones at some insurance company, right? That's just is what it is. If if you want to, and that goes all the way up to Magic the Gathering online or Duels of the Planeswalkers or whatever. If you're not going to get paid Microsoft money here. That just is what it is, man, right? And so that's the one thing. The other side is that this is a huge epidemic in all of the lines of work in gaming, period. Because everybody wants to work in gaming,
right?
And so they are chronic underpayers. It's not just Wizards of the Coast. I'm not trying to nail down Wizards.
Well, no, actually, let me pivot into, and this is something that Mike Linneman, one of the guys who writes for Gathering Magic, and awesome dude, super into magic art, something he mentioned because he used to be an art director at Fantasy Flight. Fantasy Flight makes board games and card games, and they are one of the largest board game publishers in the world. They they control the Star Wars license, for example. They have that license. They made a new Star Wars Destiny game, which is like insanely hot right now, and you can't find it anywhere, so on and so forth. So you go to Fantasy Flight's Glassdoor, and you look at their salaries. They actually have a thing that says, like, the average amount that people are being paid to work here. And a game designer at Fantasy Flight, one of the largest game publishers on the planet, on average is paying them $33,000 to $34,000 a year. That's not a lot of money. It really isn't. No. It's fine. It's okay. Like, it's not, you're not breaking the bank. You're not impressing anybody by getting paid that amount of money for making...
You're not working at Google or Boeing or, Amazon or some of these huge tech companies. Facebook.
Yeah. And, and so what you see in their reviews is, the people are amazing. Yeah, the perks are really sweet. I don't get paid crap, but everything else is totally sweet. I mean, so even with Wizards, you see things like Wizards taking the last 2 weeks of the year off. Like, that's a thing that everybody that works there gets it. That's pretty sweet. Like,
yeah,
that's cool.
I mean, I've certainly taken pay cuts to be in a better place, and I mean, there are some people that need that. There are some people. It kind of reminds me of the EV argument. There are some people that won't play an event unless it's the most they can squeeze every EV out of it, and then there are some people that are just sort of happy to be playing, quite frankly. And I have never needed much money to be happy. Like, I do make a decent living with my job, but if I were to go somewhere else and I thought I might be happier, I would take a pay cut. Like, I think it just depends on the kind of person you are. I think if they were blatantly exploiting people, they frankly wouldn't have a staff, and we would see that. So I feel like based on what we've seen, I think we all know people on the inside. I think we all know that they are not the type of people to play that. Like, if they were being taken advantage of, or they were being, grossly underpaid, that we probably would have heard about it. They probably wouldn't be there. And so I think ultimately this kind of reminds me of Magic Online. People complain about Magic Online, and it's like, well, you can complain about Wizards, so then just don't go work there. Like,
right.
Okay, so if you don't offer enough money, then don't do
the other thing about Wizards of the Coast in particular is, to me, it has this really weird spot in the corporate culture of game design, where if you have worked at Wizards of the Coast on Magic on your resume, you just go to another company and then make twice as much after you work 3 years at Wizards, right? Like, it's like the SpaceX equivalent. Like, you work at SpaceX out of grad school, and then you work there for 3 years and you're super underpaid, but you get to work on cool projects, and then you go to work for one of the SpaceX wannabes that makes jet planes or whatever for some other company and get paid 2.5x for the rest of your life, right? So it just has a very the name Magic the Gathering just holds so much clout within the industry that if you get hired by Wizards, you might think that's your end goal, and then you sort of, you meet your heroes, right? And then that sort of chips away for some people, not everybody. Some people are lifers, right?
Sure.
Most people are not. And then you move on to, Direwolf Digital or Stoneblade or any of the other myriad of other game design companies that were either founded by or incredibly helped by Magic the Gathering players and designers. So that's another thing about this. I think nothing in this Reddit thread is going to prevent me from applying to a job at Wizards again in the future.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line for me.
It also seemed like they were trying to tie this to like the game itself, as if to say, well, this is the reason why standard is terrible. This is the reason why, modern is the way that it is. This is the reason why the lore isn't very good. Like, it really felt like they were grasping at straws and they were trying to connect things that didn't necessarily warrant a connection. It just felt like a reach, to be quite honest. And even the original article, he ends the article by saying, yeah, I basically cherry picked all the bad stuff and there's good stuff, but you can go read it. And it's like, well, no, girl, that's not really how this works. Right. And so even the original article could have been better. And just the whole thing just felt very straw man.
It was very like sort of out of left field. Okay, so then it was like, yeah, standard sucks because they're not paying people, therefore they don't have the right people. Okay, whatever.
It's not even that. It's like standard sucks because of these 5-year-old Glassdoor reviews.
That's how it works.
Who goes to Yelp and reads 5-year-old reviews of the restaurant they're going? Like, what do you? Okay,
Reddit.
Apparently.
So here we are, and so then the next day it talks about Wizards is okay and blah blah blah, which then kind of turned into a conversation about like you don't like, why does everybody hate everything? Why is never anyone happy? You can't ever do anything right, and everyone wants it this way or that way. Everybody wants things banned or unbanned. Everybody wants things different and more powerful or less powerful, and blah blah. And I thought there was a great comment in that thread which says the opposite of love is not hate, it is apathy. Mm-hmm. If we didn't care, we wouldn't complain. I know it's silly. We are Magic players. That's what we do. That this is part of that culture. This is the part of the culture that no matter where I go around the world, and we see it on the internet clearly, but no matter where I went when I first started, making the Magic show or whatever, it is universal. There's no pleasing a Magic player 100%. It's just You just can't.
Yeah, I mean, the not being able to please a Magic player is one thing that I completely agree with. That is kind of unique to geek culture, is that we want all of our things to be so good and we always have opinions about it. Right. But the other thing is that the opposite of the opposite of hate being apathy. So
the opposite of love is apathy.
Oh, the opposite of love is apathy. The opposite of So Evan, you're old. Do you remember the Gong Show?
Wow.
Are you familiar with the Gong Show?
I'm familiar vaguely.
So they would score the contestants on a -5 to 5 scale.
Oh, I don't remember this.
Okay, so and they would your score was the absolute value of whatever score you got.
Okay.
And I live by the absolute value of comedy as well. Like, if I get a groan from the audience, that means they're paying attention. The worst thing possible is for them to be watching the football game instead of listening to me doing stand-up. So 100% agree on that. As long as people are responding to Sam Stoddard asking if standard is good or bad, doesn't matter if they think it's bad, as long as people are still invested, still want new things coming out, still want to help improve the game, Wizards of the Coast is going to be okay, whether or not people on Glassdoor think it's not great to work there.
Absolutely. So either way, I thought that was really interesting about, do you want to work at Wizards? There's things that come along with that. Do you want to work anywhere? There's things that come along with that. You're going to find people who've worked at a place and they probably didn't like it unless it literally the business just started or something. That's the only way it's going to happen. However, it's time to move on, and we're going to go a little bit infinite, where we had some really interesting topics brought up by our own Sam Black. Aaron, you want to kind of talk us through sort of what he wrote about this week?
Yeah, so Sam Black wrote an article for SCG today, I believe, called My Banned List Wishlist. And he was talking about some things that he would like to see happen in every format. And it seems to have gotten a lot of people talking. There were 50-some comments as of us starting this show. And I actually agreed with a lot of the things that he was proposing. I typically don't agree with a lot of these things. Like, I know Jeff Hogan wrote an article and was like, ban all Phyrexian mana. And I was like, no, girl. So Sam was saying, for starters, that in Legacy, he thinks that it is finally time for Miracles to have something banned. Specifically, Sensei's Divining Top. Miracles, we've gone on record many times talking about how Miracles has just had this unprecedented level of dominance and something has to go, and it just really can't keep going like this. And then in Modern, he suggests that Mox Opal should go. Because if Chrome Mox is banned, why is Mox Opal allowed? The hurdle of Metalcraft really isn't much of a hurdle, as anybody who's faced Affinity knows. And also, by banning Mox Opal, you also stick it to Lantern Control, which has been kind of creeping up in the metagame and is no fun to play against. Sorry, Ruben.
It's no fun. No, I agree.
It is no fun to play against. It's not very fun to watch. It's kind of miserable all around.
But I will I will burn myself here too. Sam also says that he thinks that Golgari Grave Troll could stand to be rebanned. Because not only is Dredge powerful in and of itself, but by Dredge being a major player, the graveyard hate that people are packing is keeping other decks down. For example, you're not really going to see any Goryo's Vengeance. You're not really going to see any Rights decks, Gifts Rights decks, because people are doing this. Storm, for example, is something else that suffers from the Splash Graveyard hate. He also mentions unbanning-wise that he thinks it's safe for Jace the Mind Sculptor to come back, and that it's also safe for Bloodbraid Elf to come back, which is up for debate. And that if those two do come back, you could also bring back Birthing Pod. And then he jokingly mentions, he also in Standard, he mentions that Emrakul needs to go, which I know a lot of people have been clamoring for. And then he jokingly mentions that Cabal Therapy needs a modern legal reprint, which I'm always here for.
To be clear, Cabal Therapy does not need a modern reprint.
It does!
No, that's just a Sam Black being Sam Black. That's just Sam Black wanting to have Cabal Therapy in every format.
The Sam Blackiest. So let's run down these. Cool. For me at least, we have Sensei's Divine Top and Legacy. I don't think it needs to. Why? How many times do I have to say it?
I think it's counterbalance.
Something has to be the best.
No. You're wrong, and I hate you. We discussed this like 3 months ago.
We keep discussing it. I know, right?
It's super bad. And the reason why it's top and not counterbalance is because of the other factors having to do with top of round length, mainly.
That was an actual thing. That's one of the main reasons that they cited it being banned and extended back in the day. Was it literally was taking forever for things to finish, and it was absurd. Particularly when people went to turns, and all of a sudden, boy, they were looking at those top three a lot, and they were hanging out and checking it out.
I definitely think that top is, the reasons you've listed for top are valid. However, I do think the counterbalance is I think it's counterbalance personally. I've been held back by simply a counterbalance before. If you're doing enough brainstorming and pondering, you can do it. And so I think the counterbalance is sort of the sneaky one here. The top is sort of the obvious one, but don't.
The combination of the two is the real problem. The combination of
don't let counterbalance off the hook here.
It's not off the hook. I'm just saying one of the two needs to go away, and my opinion is that it's top. One of them has to go.
Yes.
Because the problem is that there's no exchange of resources at all with it. If I play a spell and you have top and counterbalance in play, you are expending no resources, no permanent resources. You're not expending a card. You're not expending life. You're only expending mana, which is a fleeting resource that refills at the beginning of your untap step.
So dominated for too long, though. Like, it's just gone unchecked for so long that, there are other decks that we have nipped in the butt much sooner, and this one, no.
This one they've never touched. Something has to be the best, and don't worry, something will still be the best.
And there will be. I honestly, here's the thing. We have rarely had the conversation, if we've had it at all, about counterbalance being banned. It's always been top. And for me, top is like, it's kind of like a weird, like, Swiss Army knife. You know what I mean? It's like, why would you ban
counterbalance?
I think counterbalance creates the lock. Top lets you manipulate things and gives you, cool abilities, and it's really overpowered with fetch lands and all that stuff. But the lock is the problem. And the top doing a thing is top's doing things. I like the top doing things. That's fine. I agree. But the counterbalance thing. Write that
one down.
Yeah, I like the top doing things. Congratulations. It's almost as good as the prick thing. Anyway, so Mox Opal, however, is kind of hilarious. Now, Ruben, I want you to tell me your fix that you said in the pre-show, because it's the best. It's the best.
Okay. So when they ban Mox Opal, they will ban Mox Opal. Someday it'll happen, because they always do it. Simian Spirit Guide is not long for this world. Mox Opal is not long for this world. All of the free mana is going to go away someday, because that's Wizards of the Coast. # no free mana. So if they get rid of Mox Opal, here's the bone that you throw to affinity players, right? Ready? You unban Tree of Tales. Just the one. Just only Tree of Tales. That's the one you get. That's the one insane. Artifact land you get. You get Tree of Tales.
That's amazing. That just cracks me up. Like, you can't play it for free. It's weird that I'm trying to imagine these conversations in Wizards R&D of just like, but can we let them keep the Mox? And they're like, yeah, we should let them keep the Mox. And it's like, what?
How great would that be, though, if you can't do Seed of the Synod. You literally cannot do that one. You can't do Grey Furnace.
Right. Can't do that.
Can't do Vault of Whispers, really.
No, and you can't do Ancient Den because of Path.
And you can't do Ancient Den because of Path. Yeah. So I think Tree of Tales is the only one that you can do.
It's actually fan-freaking-tastic. Now, look, this whole, like, all right. I requested, I mean, I was definitely lobbying to get rid of the Modern Pro Tour. It did nothing that made any sense for Wizards, like, business and bottom line, in my opinion. And I think they finally came to their senses. Whoever it was finally tipped the scale, and that's great. But here's what I actually really enjoyed about the Modern Pro Tour is that they would do huge shakeups right before it. That's cool.
That was cool.
What he's saying here is like a huge unbanned Jace and Bloodbraid Elf and Birthing Pod. Like, what? Yeah. Like, the people would just be losing their minds. It'd be really exciting, even if it's Jace busted. Even if you bring it back. I don't know. The whole Jace thing, all I continue to keep hearing in my head is Patrick Chapin, a guy who's way better at Magic than me. Who is like,
I think Stoneforge is fine. I'm in the minority here, but I think Stoneforge is fine.
I also think Stoneforge is fine. I think that these turn 4 decks that don't kill you on turn 4, but try to establish control on turn 4 with cards like Jace, with Bloodbraid Elf, even Birthing Pod coming down on turn 2 off of Bird of Paradise, and then Stoneforge Mystic putting in a Batterskull on turn 3. Like, that's not that bad when you're living in a world where, you know, you're getting attacked by a Gristlebrand for $1 billion, where all of the, your opponents put 75 prized amalgams into the graveyard on turn 4 or turn 3, right? Or you're getting ad nauseum out of existence.
I even suggested something. I even suggested something a little scarier last week. I might even be okay with Mental Misstep.
No, Mental Misstep is inexcusable.
No. Get in spaceship. No. We're out. We're just no.
Do you know what I did with Mental Misstep today? I drafted it in 2 different cube decks. I countered a Soul Ring. I countered an Ancestral Recall. I countered a Bird of Paradise, and I countered a Entomb.
I countered a Grafdigger's Cage. That felt amazing.
Oh, that card is
Mental Misstep is not reasonable.
Fair. That card is no.
Can't Mental Misstep.
It was a big bag of, dear God, do you remember the Goblins decks that had 4 of it in there? Oh my God.
Jim Davis does. Jim Davis remembers.
Jim Davis. Pepperidge Farm and Jim Davis both remember that. Yes, they do.
The other one, so here's my other one for Modern that I've been lobbying for a little bit. I don't think I've ever brought it up on the show. Ban every card in 8th edition. Just get rid of 8th edition.
Well, no, 8th edition.
Longer in Modern.
Yeah, 8th edition no longer being Modern means that Tron's not in Modern and Bad Moon's not, or not Bad Moon, Blood Moon's not in Modern.
Blood Moon's not in Modern, and Snaring Bridge isn't in Modern.
Oh my God! It also fixed the Summer Bloom problem, but they
also would fix the Summer Bloom. Summer Bloom.
Either way, my whole point was first of all, Pat Chapin said
that
Summer Bloom. Yeah.
Some big bad Bloom.
It needs banned. Bloom needs banned.
Bloom is blundering.
It's broken.
The point is that Patrick Chapin at one point said they will never unban Jace the Mind Sculptor. I don't know if I got that wrong, I would love to be corrected. But regardless, the fact that Jace would probably become quickly the best thing, this sounds to me like just a really interesting experiment, basically. You know what I mean? You have a format, you have cards that do things, you have really powerful stuff that you can bring in and out. They have the power to change things. Clearly, banning, unbanning, changing the B and R list are not stopping people from playing. In fact, kind of get people really excited, the best I can figure. I don't think it's that bad of an idea. But let's
go. You know what else isn't a bad idea? Unbanning Dread Return.
You know,
Aaron, please.
Wow.
With your free
directly with the straw.
Fine.
Right.
With your free mana, get out of here. Unbelievable.
I am one of these days I'm going to make a PowerPoint presentation and show you that it is fine.
A bad idea would be banning Emrakul in Standard. A better idea would be to print things that hate the frigging graveyard.
I don't think
that's what would fix the things. We do not need to ban Emrakul right now. We need to print a thing.
Was another moving to Standard. This was Sam's idea for Standard, was to ban Emrakul. I don't mind it. I mean, look, changing the mana cost up to 15 is what should have happened, right?
True.
We can all be like, all right, this should have cost 15 like first Emrakul.
Right.
And now we're in this world where it costs 13 because 13 is an unlucky number, and we decided that was adorable and screw the consequences.
Basically.
Yeah, I get, but at this point, 2 of the 3, if not the 2 best decks in the format, play a lot of Emrakuls, and it's really just not great.
It just it takes a virtual reprint of like Relica Progenitus. It takes a virtual reprint of like Tormod's Crypt. Like just give us something to stop them, and we'll be okay. Like that to me is what needs to happen. Not just ban Emrakul because it's a cool card.
Just give me Cranial Archive for gosh darn sakes.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not too proud to beg for like I don't even know. For a Loaming Shaman, like something really mediocre.
Oh man, the Loaming.
What was that
you
black
went straight
zombie?
Loaming
The black
Shaman.
zombie that has like a scavenging ooze effect with like the colorless.
Withered Wretch.
There we go.
Withered Wretch. Wow.
Withered Wretch back in there.
Wow. This is some straight like 2005.
Look, man, I'm not asking for Grafdigger's Cage. I'm not asking even for Tormod's Crypt.
I'm not either.
I'm just looking for some, I don't even want Ravenous Trap. I think Ravenous Trap's too good.
Me too.
Right? So all I'm looking for, I want Phyrexian Furnace. That's all I want.
Good old-fashioned Phyrexian Furnace.
Give me some crappy. Just anything. Literally anything.
The Scavenging Ooze would be a terrific reprint. It would actually be really interesting in the mirror. It'd be able to hate him in the right way. Green gets the graveyard hate thing, which would be interesting. Again, it just the whole Emrakul and Standard being banned was like, could Wizard just develop a little bit? If we could just have the right pieces, please.
I forget who I saw tweeted it today. I think it was Caleb. Was like, if you make Emrakul cost 15, if you make Aetherworks Marvel not gain additional energy on its own. Right. Like let it have its own ability, but it doesn't gain any extra energy. And then there was like 2 other things he said, and was like, these would be the changes, and then we'd have the best standard environment of all time.
But you can't retcon cards.
Agreed. It's not Hearthstone.
No, but if Wizards could, I think they would.
Ifs and buts were candy and nuts. This would be the eternal online card game.
What?
We'd all have Merry Christmas. That's the thing. If some buds were candy and nuts, we'd all have Merry Christmas.
I've never heard of that before.
You've never heard of ifs and buts were candy and nuts?
Yeah. No.
Can I give you another one that you're really going to enjoy? I think I've used it on the show before, but one of my favorite phrases to use is "Not my circus, not my monkeys."
That's
something goes bad, and they're like, "Well, what do you think? What do you know about this? What happened here?" And you're like, "Not my circus, not my monkeys, bro." And then you just walk off. It's a wonderful little bit.
And then you leave as they ponder your.
And they go, circuses.
Yeah, as they noodle on your analogy.
Oh, they noodle it. Okay, so Aetherworks Marvel, like looking back on that card and like the fact that it fuels itself with that whenever another permanent you control, it's just kind of crazy. It's actually a little insane.
Yeah, I think that I responded to a Ken Crocker tweet earlier where he was
I'm
like,
sorry to hear that.
It's fine. The people who are shout out to Ken Crocker for whatever that take was about. I have no frame of references to.
I'm just picking on
I guess you block her.
I'm sure he's already blocked. She's In
any case, he was like, people think that Aetherworks Marvel is super miserable, and I'm like, yeah, there are the 3 main types of combo. There's the 1-card combo. It's like Tooth and Nail, Enduring Ideal, Dragonstorm. Then there's 2-card combo, which is like Splinter Twin, Painter Servant Grindstone, Helm, Leyline. And then there's Critical Mass combo, which is like Elves or Storm, right? And people, in general, latch onto the one type of combo they typically like, and then hate the rest of them. And for some reason, more people hate 1-card combo, just like with a white-hot passion. And Aetherworks Marvel costs 4 mana. Right, so it's the cheapest one that's ever existed of the super giant cast 1 spell win the game cards. Right. So I can understand the frustration, but I think that the card is fine with just that one minor tweak. I think it's a reasonable idea. So we'll see.
We will see. So. Moving on to another quick Going Infinite bit, which I just wanted to mention really briefly. It appears Mark Rosewater sent the MTG Finance people into an absolute tizzy with the following tweet. There was a conversation about about what Standard was and how if people were taking Mark Rosewater's comments on Tumblr kind of out of context a little bit, and blaming him for things. And then they talk about, well, we're not having fun, and why are we not having fun? Well, it's because of the reserve list, and well, if the reserve list could go away, that'd be great. And he's like, well, the reserve list isn't going away. And then they said, well, what about snow duels? And then Mark Rosewater said, quote, do snow duels fix the problem, or do the best decks just have both? And just saying the words snow duels sent everybody a tizzy. Holy cow. And you can see it on our good friend Rudy's videos, where he's talking about how, like, in the past 5 days, he sold more Magic or Ice Age sealed product than he has in, like, 5 years or whatever. Because I guess people want snowlands, and snowlands are like the real hot stuff, and it's so silly in a lot of ways. Ultimately, as I have at least recalled it, that snow duels are no good because they're basically a virtual reprint. Whatever, if it's it's a functionally identical thing, then it can't be reprinted. You can't make Mishra's Workshop with just a different name and make it a snowland that makes the 3 stuff, just like you can't do duels this way. So I don't know, but it is weird. It threw everybody into a loop. Can snow duels actually happen? It sure would be nice.
It would be nice. I was kind of horrified by this thread, to be honest. So this all got started on Blogatog. There was a young man named Julian who had started this, basically. And at one point in the conversation, Mark Rosewater says, "We just brought back Dwarves and Gremlins. We bring things back players ask for." And Julian was basically said, "Well, that's cute, girl, but you need to bring back really impactful policy-changing things." And Maro says, "Why is the things that matter to you more important than things that matter to others?" Which is valid. And then Julian goes, "Because that's what I pay you for." And I was like,
that's an aggressive sentence.
That someone would say that to Mark Rosewater. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, that is a ridiculous thing.
Whoa. I couldn't believe that.
Yeah,
wow.
That's so stupid. So back to the snow duels. So I have a couple thoughts. One is, honestly, a lot of decks wouldn't run all of them.
No.
Right? So you look at the top decks in, let's say, Legacy right now. Miracles runs like 4 total duels, or like 6.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them are fetch lands, is the thing about Legacy and Modern, honestly, is that, they want to have a good mixture of basics and non-basics. So, maybe the 2-color decks, the blue-red combo deck, whatever it is, would run 5, 6, right, overall. But we're not talking a ridiculous number. I guess one of the fixes is, if you have enough room on the type line, you could print Legendary Snowland - Island Mountain, and that would take up a lot of space on the type line. But Legendary solves some of that problem, right? Like you bump from 4 to 5. That lets you run the one that you would run in Miracles anyway.
Sure.
So like it gives you access to it without being completely ridiculous. Now the other problem is that once you print snow duels, you run into problems like Gifts Ungiven, for example. You run into there's a lot of really ridiculous. Tainted Pact is one that somebody in chat brought up, which is that is a scary card if you can play a full singleton deck. So that's the problem with snow-covered tropical island.
So I found Joe Lissette's list. Joe Lissette's Miracle list from the Players Championship. He ran 8 fetch lands.
Yeah.
And only 4 duels. So 2 tundras and 2 volcanic islands. So he didn't run 4 of the same one. I know with Reanimator, we only run 3 Badlands. We run 1 Bayou, and that's so that we can get Reverence Islands. And so, the argument that you're not even going to use all 4 is valid. You typically run more fetch lands, almost twice as many fetch lands as you do the actual lands you're trying to get.
Right. Now in a deck like Blue-Red Delver, you're going to run 8 duels. You're going to run all your fetches, and you're going to run a billion duels, right? Just because that's how that deck... Like, all of those kind of Delvery kind of decks want to have their 8 duels, right? Or their 8 lands of some kind. And right now they run basics for no particular reason other than they have to. And so, there's some give and some take. I don't think it's a completely unreasonable idea. I personally would put the safety valve of making them legendary on it.
Yeah, so Ali Roddy 5-0 to league recently with Blue Red Delver, and he ran 10 fetch lands. So 2 Arid Mesos, 4 Flooded Strands, 4 Tarns, and only 4 Volcanic Islands.
Fair enough. And I've read many articles from particularly in the vintage world that they would just not be used. It's not like it was going to be underground seas 5-7, 5 through 8 or whatever. It's just not like they don't need it. They don't want it. It's going to mess up their diversity. They don't run a lot of lands anyway, so on and so forth. However, really interesting. I don't know what it means. I just know that when stuff like that happens,
it means nothing. It's a lot of sound and a lot of noise signifying nothing, and then we talked about it for 10 minutes. Love it. Perfect. It's a perfect Magic. It's the perfect final Magic Mike's topic of 2016.
Yeah.
It's a whole lot of bluster and not a lot of substance.
It's a lot of bluster.
A lot of bluster, very little substance.
So we turn the corner to the finisher. As we do, well, a Twitter discussion popped up this week that I really enjoyed. So as the last finisher of 2016, I have to ask, without revealing your actual age, what is something you remember that if you told a younger person, they would not understand? Aaron?
Guys, come over quick. Magic the Gathering U.S. Nationals is on ESPN2 in 45 minutes.
I'm so excited!
Yeah.
I hope they got like really cool like 90s lettering. It'd be totally awesome.
Oh my god.
Man, they make the hammer look super cool.
Yeah.
Ruben?
It's tough to make the hammer look cool. Everyone, please remember that sleeves are not legal for on-camera matches.
That's right.
You must de-sleeve your decks
to
play on camera.
But they have glare, don't you know?
That is a thing that used to happen.
That's a problem. So, lastly, all I got to say is 5 words. The land continues to burn. Yeah. It does.
You
also, 3 dudes seriously, but
you got to be you got to be a minimum age in order to get that one.
got to be minimum. Fantastic. Well, before we say goodbye, we would like to remind that next week is basically one of the most action-packed weeks of spoilers probably ever. They're spoiling the entire set over the next 4 to 5, like over those 4 days, those first 4 days. January 2nd. Yeah, all the way until that Friday when the entire set shows up. So we're going to have our spoiler next Wednesday. It is sweet.
It is really good. We did not see Seasons Past being quite as good as it was.
Right.
This one, it's super obvious how good it is.
It's sweet. I am excited to talk about it. I'm excited to see it and share it with everybody. But that does end another episode of Magic Mike's. Aaron, thank you very much for hanging out with us.
Thanks for having me.
Ruben, thanks for hanging out, buddy.
See you in 2017.
That's right. We will see you guys next year as we go into our final slide. So that wraps up another episode of Magic Mike's. I want to thank you guys for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. I want to thank my co-hosts, you guys, for watching, and hope you support us at patreon.com/magicmikes. Visit our website at magicmikespodcast.com that exists thanks to our Patreon supporters, or follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe, do everything social that tells people that we exist. Catch us online at twitch.tv/magicmikes, on Twitter at magicmikescast, and on Reddit at reddit.com/r/magicmikes, and on Facebook at facebook.com/magicmikes. Talk to us privately at magicmikespodcast@gmail.com. Follow the audio-only podcast at magicmikespodcast.libsyn.com. or find us on iTunes, or join us here next week. Same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mike's. Good night, everybody.